Welcome back, everybody. This is the How to Get Much Healthier Happy Hour. We are continuing from last show where we really got into the importance and the vitality of life. The key of it is to be healthy. And everything fountains or shoots off from there. Listen, wherever you are, good morning, afternoon, or evening. If you're at the office hiding from your boss, it's usually a good thing because most bosses suck. It's a fact. But switch on to your computer, your tablet, your phone. Tune into this anywhere in the world. Make sure to smash the likes. Subscribe to the Drunken Grape YouTube channel. Make sure to comment in these videos. When you do watch them, likes aren't simply enough. It helps the algorithm. It helps you gain much greater exposure. So, health, it is vital. Today's guest is back, Jean-Guy. We're going to get into his business practice that's budding. I believe that's trying to remember the name of it now. This is a retake. We had some audio issues earlier on, but we're going to Dimensional Wellness 365 and how he is staying ahead of cancer, a type of form of leukemia that ends up being fatal in most people, how he lost over 130 pounds, and more impressively is not the weight loss, but the fact that he has kept it off over 5 years and revolutionizing his lifestyle. We're going to get into this because health is ever more important, especially in the very unhealthy Western world. Welcome back, Jean-Guy. How you doing, bud? What's going on? Let's get into this.
I'm doing good, brother. Thank you again for the invite today, and thank you for talking about Dimensional Wellness 365. And yes, I did lose the weight 5 years ago, and I did lose the medication, medical devices, and a lot of things I got rid of. And you mentioned the Western lifestyle, and I tell individuals, I call there's the unhealthy lifestylers and there's the healthy lifestylers. And
there
5 years
You're
ago,
right.
after 7 years of research, I chose the healthy lifestylers, Laurel.
That's smart. And you know what? Big shout out to Stream Water. We're wearing the shirts. We're welcoming them back. Water is the most important thing to the vitality of your life. And their water is excellent. I'm drinking the sparkling water. I love it. Blows away Perrier and all that other stuff. Like, this is about as balanced as it can get to your natural pH level. The higher on the scale, the more alkaline you are. That's where you want to go. This is about 7.7. It's rich in a lot of electrolytes. It's a natural source. The purity is incredibly high. I love these guys. They're from our local city of Ottawa. I helped bring them into the National Arts Centre and expose them into the Bank of Canada. They have some of the very best water, so reach out to them at streamwater.ca. I know you're working on a project with them too. We can get into that a bit later, but let's talk water first and why it's so crucial and why Eastern society consumes it much better than we do in the West, and why their healthy window is far greater than ours. I mean, this is crucial, Jean-Guy. We have a health epidemic in the West. We see skinny, fat, weak 20-year-olds. We see fatty liver disease in the youth. We see people on assisted dying for the last 20 years of their lives, hopped up on a pile of medications, and without them, their morbidities would open up that floor into the bottomless well, as I like to call it. So let's get into this. Let's talk a bit about your journey. We're going to get into your company because I think you got brilliant consulting services there that everyone needs to take advantage of. It's very affordable, especially comparative to the costs of having bad health, which is just insurmountable in most cases.
Well, when you mentioned water, right? Like, and you mentioned stream water and like the naturally occurring electrolytes. Now, water is the primary source of any lifestyle. Your water, I'm water. We're primarily our water, body and brain, right? So anybody I sit with, I always tell them you have to start your day with room temperature water. And everything I talk about without mentioning it forward is based on data, research, and science, right? So yes, water is a key to everything. And when you look at Dimensional Wellness 365, the reason why I called it Dimensional Wellness 365, it encompasses the dimensions of wellness 365 days a year. So if you look at your top 10 commonalities on earth of longevity, your number one is ingredients and consumption. which water being a primary source of it. And the other one is I consume on a definition of food. I pay attention to the ingredient that repair and nourish my vital organs, right? And then you have your top three is basically sleep, consumption, and muscles. So that is, if I, without going into them, we're going to have an exchange of conversation here. That's when I sit with individuals and I break it down based on incremental habits. It's incremental habits that assisted me in getting rid of medication, medical devices. It's assisting me in staying ahead of a right off the hop. I don't do anything halfway. I get cancer. I get stage 3, 4 right off the hop, high risk mutation, chronic lymphocytic leukemia,
Wow.
right? Everything I got in life is always the high risk or severe sleep apnea, severe ventricular disease. Like I've always been that guy that does everything big. Well, the same thing followed me, but all that came from lifestyle. When you're honest with yourself, and that's what I tell individuals, you have to be honest with yourself. When you're honest with yourself, I will start working with you, right? Because when I was honest
key,
with myself, what's that?
Yeah, that's key. Key is honesty with yourself. Key. And that's the hardest step. Western culture teaches us to be dishonest. I hate to say it. I don't want to be a bringer of bad news to my own culture, but it's so true. Everything's outward expression.
Let's call it unhealthy societies, Rob, because they're all around the world, right? And it has to do with addiction. A lot of the consumption
sugar addiction,
are designed
processed
for addiction.
Food.
They're designed for profitability, profit over people. You must have heard that term. They're designed for overeating, overconsumption. But what it causes comorbidities. It causes diseases that lead to illnesses. And illness is a sentiment of the disease, right? We don't treat the causations. They just mask it with medications, what ends up with more medication, followed by medical procedures, medical devices, mobility devices, and it becomes and no disrespect to the system, because when I jumped on the other side of the fence, the functional, integrative, holistic, precision lifestyle medicine world, which is all medical professionals, but that encompass everything, right? And that's when I started 7 years ago. If you have to encompass everything, because on this side of the fence, they think it's a lifestyle to be on medication. They think it's a lifestyle to be on medical devices and mobility devices and medical procedures. It's not a lifestyle. It's a marketing lifestyle. You're taught from birth, like you said a moment ago, right, that it's a lifestyle, but it's not a lifestyle. A true lifestyle is to live 90 years strong. A true lifestyle is to fulfill your grandmother duties, right? To enjoy your pensionable years. That's a true lifestyle.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference. I've got your website up. We're going to get into this in a second. I'm just going to showcase this Dimensional Wellness 365. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, it's the front page. It's a concierge genetic services and transformational lifestyle coaching model that harnesses the science of DNA with the study of one's genes as its foundation. That is critical. I combine this with teaching a healthier lifestyle through incremental habits in order to naturally achieve a 2.0 version of your greater self. I mean, that's so well expressed. Yes, getting into this, consumption-based. Obviously, as sommelier, beer sommelier, this is a happy hour. But what's something I always preach on this show is to light, moderate drinking. Alcohol in its healthiest forms are okay to drink. You got resveratrol in wine. You have proanthocyanins. Water, a beer is 90% water. It's funny how they all reference these things as water of life. Whiskey bee, Gaelic for water of life, vodka, Slavic for water of life, eau de vie expressed in the form of wine, water of life. Water is essence. And beer is 90% water, chock full of vitamins and minerals. What does that mean? Alcohol itself is dangerous, but if you drink a couple of these in a sitting and walk away and take a few days off, there's no harm in it, especially clean crafted organics. This is tying into the lifestyle. You got to be active, right? And you really got to monitor things, as Jean-Guy has mentioned. So, Jean-Guy, let's get into this in a little more detail. You've nailed a number of very vital points right off the bat. And you have a business now that addresses these problems.
Well, you talked when you read it out. You talked about 2.0 version of yourself, and when I say that, I'm speaking from knowledge, training, and experience. Right? In my background as an investigator, in the terminology, everything was by definition. And if you look at competency, competency comes from knowledge, training, and experience, defined as. And a 2.0 version of yourself. When I look at Jean-Guy today and Jean-Guy 5 years ago, completely different mindsets. And when I
Yes, I
sit
got
with
the picture up
individuals,
of you.
but when I sit with individuals, I say, think about your most brightest, most influential, most impactful moments of your life, whether in business, whether in family, whether in community, whether in services, and imagine a 2.0 version of that. Well, that's what happens when you change the ingredients. You mentioned alcohol a moment ago. There's healthier versions of it in each category. There's wines in certain culture that they drink every day. They have a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine a day. But if you were to compare their wines to these wines have up to 1,000, 2,000, 3 byproducts of chemicals, as opposed to their wines where it's based on the ingredient. So that's how I approach my lifestyle. I put value to what goes into my mouth based on definition. If you look at a definition of food in itself, it's to repair and nourish your vital organs of the body and mind. That's how I started consuming 5 years ago, on a definition of food, of consumption. And every day I got healthier tomorrow than I was today. And I repeated, and I never went backwards, right? Incremental habits.
That's incredible.
And this is what I teach as a transformational lifestyle coach on Dimensional Wellness 365. But here's a very interesting thing, Rob. You know that I did 41 days of fasting. You know that I've not
Yes.
missed a day of fasting since June 3rd, 2019. I fast
That's
every day for the
incredible.
last 5 years. My average is 20 hours, but I didn't start that way. It started with incremental habits, right? And I teach people incremental habits. And I teach people, but here's a very interesting thing I mentioned a moment ago. I know what I did for the last 7 years. I know when I kicked into gear June 3rd, 2019, almost 5 years ago, I know how I got rid of the medication, the medical devices, the chronic pains and everything. I know how I did it. But then when I got into the genetics, which is a company that I met back in 2019, I went through the evolution. And I reached out to them. Well, a long story short, when I went through the whole genetics process, my 5 years behind me was inside that genetics. That's what I
Yeah,
found interesting.
that's wow.
And
I got up here. That's cool.
What's that?
I've got your picture up. I know your camera's broken on your phone, so we're just guiding you. I've got your picture of you and 2.0 beside it. This is incredible. You're like 363 pounds. You look like a pro wrestler, and then you look like a bodybuilder that's sculpted out of marble on the other end. And you've kept the weight off. And this is amidst fighting cancer too. This is crazy.
But and Robin, I want to emphasize that it has nothing to do with shape and size. But anybody listening here, it has nothing to do with shape and size. It's all internal health. And if you look at how I look now, and you mentioned that, I appreciate that. But that came naturally. I do train every day. I live a fasting, fitness, flexibility, Mediterranean, nutraceuticals, plant-based, supplemental, whole food lifestyle. They're all tools, right? But the look came naturally by living that lifestyle. And you know that yourself. If I look at you, you're fit. And it's because of your consumption and how you live. And that's what I teach through the transformational lifestyle coaching based on genetics. So I put the 5 years behind me, which 7 years of research, I put it in front of people based on their genetics. And I teach them incremental habits. I teach them about nutrient density.
Awesome.
I teach them about the dimensions of wellness, right? And then what's important, and you've come to one of my talks, and I start with the understanding.
Yeah, it was great.
But the understanding, Rob, is important.
It is. And you've got your whole thing up here. I've got your concierge genetics program up. And, people may look at this price tag, which is just over $1,000 US. If you're in the States, you can engage with Jean-Guy too. I mean, a lot of this can be done and walk through, I'm sure, virtually as well on the guidance and the courses. You can do this anywhere on the planet. $1,349.99 plus HST in Canada. You add in your 13%. Sure, people are going to say, oh, my God, that's $1,500. I want to ask people this. If you're unhealthy now, I want you to think, how much are you spending a month on the doctor alone? To get your 15 minutes of fame every year, you have over 8,600 hours in a year. Doctors will see you for 15 minutes. It's insane. Your wellness is your responsibility every waking hour and every sleeping hour of every year. This is incredibly affordable. There's a whole genetic swabbings. This is all laboratory backed up with DNA analysis. It's a personal report to look at what roadblocks you may be facing in your genetic code itself. I'm going to jump into this myself at some point with you, Jean-Guy. It's a matter of time. But the genetic walkthrough, what if you're predisposed to diabetes? Well, you get a head start. You get to learn what foods will prevent that, what lifestyle will prevent that. On top of that, share with us intermittent fasting. Like, I'm going to go through some 3 basics here. We're going to go through fasting, exercise, and diet. On each one, what tidbits can people do now, regardless of whether they engage in these programs or not? Just some fundamental basics that could save a few lives watching this program.
So one of the things I talk about is non-calorie liquids, right? And I tell people you're not hungry. We're not designed to put calories in our mouth at 10, 21 times a day like we do in the unhealthy worlds, right? That's addiction. Full stop, right? Everything is designed for addiction, for overconsumption, for profitability, profit over people. So I always talk about the non-calorie liquids, whether it's your green teas or your black coffees or your sparkling waters. You can even go with flavored waters as long as there's no calories. Do that more often, right? The other thing I tell people to eat nutrient dense. What does that mean? The closest, the freshest, the most organic, closest to the earth the food is, the higher level of nutrient density. The more nutrient dense you consume, the less you consume while becoming internally healthier. The other thing I tell people,
what are some good foods? Just to interject for a second. What good foods, what basics can they find in the grocery store? I know I eat avocados. I had an avocado the other morning after not eating for 12 and a half hours. It filled me up. A whole avocado made me feel good for part of that morning.
But why is that,
things
Rob?
like that. Why is that? Because it's nutrient density.
Dense. That's what that is. Like I raw nuts and seeds. If I was to simplify it, boiling your vegetables or microwaving your vegetables or steaming your vegetables. I'm going to tell you to steam your vegetables because you're not reducing the nutrient density as much as microwaving and boiling, which you're basically killing it, right? The raw nuts and seeds. I tell people raw nuts and seeds because once they roast them and etc., they process them, for example, you're reducing the nutrient density. You're basically killing it, right? So that's a differentiator. Try to overeat broccoli or overeat blackberries or overeat.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Why is that? Because of nutrient density. The more nutrient dense the consumptions, the ingredients you put in your mouth, the healthier you become internally while consuming less. And this whole analogy that people say it's expensive to eat healthy, that's wrong. That's actually marketing, if anything, because the more nutrient dense I consume, the less I consume while I got internally healthy. But what happened is that I eat better food, better consumption,
and it's cheaper
quality, better quality.
It's cheaper over your wallet over the year. Yeah, I mean it's amazing. You don't even have to supplement vitamins as much if you're eating like this. I think it's always good to supplement a bit too. There's always great
and that's where the genetics comes in,
out
Rob.
there that help out. But yes, this is the coaching you provide, and I think that's ingenious. That's a step I've never looked at. To give you an example,
because it raises your bar. You got to understand it raises your. How did I stay ahead of cancer? How did I get rid of the medication, medical devices, the chronic pain? How did I do that 5 years ago and it never came back? Right? Because I kept raising my bar. I got healthier tomorrow than I was today, and I repeated. And then when I got into the genetics, there's a lot of my entire 7 years behind me is inside that genetics, right? So it was so very interesting, but it also taught me to raise my bar even higher, my healthometer higher. And how did I do that? Because everything I've done is on data, research, and science, right? Whether it's public, private, government data, I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but it's more so on the other side of the fence. You're a functional, holistic, integrative, precision lifestyle medicine side. Medical professionals that have been following and those that are lifestylers, those that practice what they preach, those that are the boots on the ground of the lifestyle. So when I started looking at it, there was nutraceuticals and supplementation that I was taking that I truly didn't need, but there was some that I needed that I wasn't taking. There's also, it tells you things so the things that I look at, and I'm talking to clients here, I'm looking at your nutrition, I'm looking at your medication, your pharmacology side of it, I'm looking at your supplementation nutraceuticals, and I'm also looking at what you're susceptible to, whether it's Alzheimer, whether it's like your cardiovascular issues, your alcoholism, your obesity. There's things that you're genetically susceptible to. And what we do when we look at that, it points you in the right direction. So if you were to drive today from Ottawa to Buffalo, you're going to go on the Waze or your Google map and you're going to enter that information and it's going to guide you down the right path, right? It's going to take you there and the best route possible.
It's a great analogy.
That's exactly what I'm doing with individuals. I'm putting my 5 years behind me in front of them based on their genetics, and I'm putting their roadmap ahead of them so that they can do it in incremental habits. And if I leave Ottawa today to Buffalo, it's not done like that. It's incremental steps, correct? Same thing with your lifestyle. Same thing. I don't want you to change your culture. I don't want you to change your religion. I don't want you to change your geographical area. And if you start, that's why it doesn't work. Diets don't work because we change people. I want you to be you in incremental habits.
Yeah, they're miserable. In fact, a lot of cases, diets actually put people in a worse shape behind the 8 ball
100%.
when they come off that diet. And, you get into that. So you got avocados, nuts, bananas, apples,
nutrient-dense consumptions.
Nutrient-dense consumptions. If you're going to eat bread, stay away from any enriched flour. Go as natural as you can, or make your own, or buy the European bread that has unbleached, unfiltered, unrefined flour in your bread, like Belgian bread at Farm Boy, for instance, sells that, and I eat it. It's not high in fiber, but it's not destroying me either. Like it's actually healthy wheat germ. It's amazing. Like
ingredients, right?
Because of its ingredients, and we love chemicals in our food, GMOs. It's a shame. Politicians should be slapped in Canada for even allowing this to happen, taking the bribes and payoffs of lobbyists to make it happen. But this is brutal. And you go to Europe. I have a really good friend who's a celiac here in Canada. She goes to Portugal or Europe, can eat their bread. Why is that? Because one's nutrient dense and healthier, and the other one is chock full of junk. And it triggers digestion problems.
If you talk to anybody in the Mediterranean world that eat our food, the first thing, commonality-wise, if I put my dyslexic mind together, commonality-wise, they all talk about how sugary our foods are here, right?
And that's the number one killer, sugar. Addiction. Brutal.
Yep. But I know, but it's designed for addiction. It's designed for overconsumption. It's designed for profitability, right? So anybody
I find that's so true. So true.
Oh, absolutely, but that's what it's for. And this is what I tell individuals. If people talk about, I have abs at 58, but I go, if you look at all your old statues, whether you're Roman statues, your Spartan statues, your any art drawings, go to the African caves that are 1 million years old. People have abs. Why is that? That's what people look like naturally. It's what you look like. Like if you look at my old pictures and people tell me I got disciplined. And I pull up you see my presentation. I pull up my 24-year-old the double bicep pose. I put up my 40-year-old with the big 363-pound gut, and I put my pictures today. I go, same heart, same mind, same soul. So what happened to that guy's in discipline? You know what that guy was? He was addicted. This guy here, he took control of his ingredients. That's a differentiator, right? So when you pay attention to the ingredients go in your mouth, when you make it a lifestyle, when you put emphasis on you, fulfill your grandfather duties, enjoy your pensionable years, when you think that way, when you have intrinsic motivations that way, and I teach the understanding of it based on people's genetics, it changes their life. And the wisdom, the clarity of the mind. This is what really
the clarity is incredible. That's actually one of the biggest factors. I just shot the picture up here momentarily, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the physique difference from when Jean-Guy was terribly unhealthy to when he got healthy in a natural state. I'm going to stop sharing that now, but that's just truly remarkable. So let's get into mental clarity. Something I've learned from you. You have a brilliant presentation, by the way. I loved it. Sat through with Rima, my girlfriend, and some people we know within the Greater Ottawa community. Fasting. So I started doing 12 hours like this week, where I've got a window where I actually naturally fast now every day. I'm finding I'm mentally more alert. I'm finding the brain fog. I'm finding crashes from caffeine are gone. I drink black coffee only, really. I have a dessert. I will have a dessert coffee once in a while. That's honey. I don't use sugar. Or if you're going to do anything, there's natural maple syrup off an Indian or an Indian reserve or an indigenous reserve. This stuff is way healthier for you than refined sugar and all the crap and, the fructose, glucose garbage that we add into things like Aunt Jemima, which is what it used to be called, the syrup. It makes a world of difference. The clarity, talk a bit about that, because the brain fog is destroying a lot of people, not only just within themselves, but socially and professionally. Try going to work every day with brain fog. What a horrible sentence. And it's preventable because it's dietary and lifestyle based. Alzheimer's, you mentioned that, diabetes type 3. Sugar-based.
It's all inflammatory, Rob. It's all inflammatory. So sugar is sugar is sugar. Always remember that. It doesn't matter where it comes from, whether it's your honey, whether it's your fruit, whether it's a processed, ultra-processed. It's sugar, sugar, sugar. However, within each category, there's a healthier category, and natural sugars like your honey, the raw, not the processed honeys, your raw
honey,
unpasteurized honeys, or your sugars that come from fruits. It comes with other things like your fibers and that, which processes naturally in your body. So when we go to
it's a slow absorption, right?
Correct. So when you talk about fasting, it reduces the inflammatory markers on the mind and on the body, and that's what it does. And the wisdom, as you know, I've never not fasted since June 3rd, 2019. I fast every day. I average 20 hours, but I did start that way. I did a 41-day non-calorie causing fasting. Wow. I've done 24, 48, 72, 96. I've done all that. So my 41 days was actually 986 hours and 32 minutes of fasting. But I tell individuals, I did not start that way. I started with 16 eights back on June 3rd, 2019. I started with 3 meals a day. And this is very important to understand here. When I lost all the medication and the chronic illnesses and all the dissipation of, and I still have, trust me, I'm still very sick, but I'm staying ahead of it. But when I got rid of all that stuff, I was still drinking alcohol. I was still eating restaurant desserts. I was still eating processed consumption in the beginning, but it's how I did it. And I got incremental habits as I went up the scale of life, of longevity. And so I teach people it was all by incremental habits. And then the fasting, what happened, the wisdom comes out, the clarity of the mind. The 41-day fast, after my day 30, it was phenomenal what I experienced. The spirituality.
You had a spiritual, yeah. Let's talk about that, because people fail to realize, there's almost a, I call it a demonification, but it's almost like it's like turning spiritual into evil in today's social media driven world. That's a whole different topic we can talk about.
The mind is numb.
Spiritual is so yes, the spiritual is so crucial though. Let's get into that. The awakening you had, because great cultures talk about fasting and the importance of it. We are not meant to go without breaks in consumption. We're just not genetically engineered for this. We're meant to fast.
So Rob, the clarity, what's important to understand about that is that I'm going to call the old Jean-Guy, the unhealthy lifestyle world, the numbing of the mind. That's what happens, and you're susceptible to all the marketing. It draws you to it because the addiction. So when I started changing the ingredients and I became more health conscious lifestyle wise, I started ignoring the noise. Like I could walk into a room and nums everywhere. I have no interest. Literally have no, because I see the plastic. I see the unhealthiness in consumptions, right? And again, I tell people tell me it's expensive to eat clean.
So true.
That's false. That's all false. So that's false marketing.
It's actually a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
For every dollar that is spent on healthiness, there's over $300 on marketing spelled on unhealthiness. So this is why I tell people the sugary minds, let's just call it the processed, ultra processed, refined processed minds, they are susceptible to all that marketing and all that garbage noise, right?
Yeah,
So
not to
the
mention the
wisdom that
drugs that
comes
they
from
get you hooked
fasting.
on. Yeah.
No, but the wisdom comes from fact. You start ignoring the noise and you start concentrating on yourself. So yes, that it's because you're declogging your mind. You're decluttering. You're taking the molasses out of your brain. You're taking the molasses out of your bloodstream. You're taking the unhealthiness out. And all of a sudden, everything starts happening naturally. You naturally become wiser. The wisdom starts enhancing. The body starts changing. The abs start coming out. They're always there. And they just start coming out. The core strength
and
starts
also
developing.
it gets better. And the bowel movements, that's one thing most people have trouble with, for instance. That gets a hell
Rob,
of a
I'm going
lot
to say
better.
something to you about bowel movement, and I'm going to be raw in this interview, and I say this in my talks. You've heard this. If you that picture you showed a moment ago, Jean-Guy at 363 pounds, which the average North American puts calories in her mouth 10 to 21 times a day. That's your protein bar. That's your muffins. That's your drive-through coffee, candy coffees, all that stuff.
Triple
All the junk
coffees.
that
Yeah.
they put calories in their
Garbage.
mouth 10 to 21 times a day, right? So if you look at Jean-Guy at 363 pounds, or the Jean-Guy at, even when I did the 41 days, or say the average 245 pounds, if you look at those two individuals, and this individual's here has 2 calorie windows a day on average, the new Jean-Guy, and the old Jean-Guy putting calories in his mouth 10 to 21 times a day, both those souls, same heart, same mind, same souls, had the exact same bowel movements. And I ask people, explain that to me. I know why, but I know, and I do explain that. But the differentiator is that your body can't process it. So the old Jean-Guy, the reason why I got to 363 pounds, it's because your body can't process it, starts storing it,
Yeah.
hence the diseases, hence the comorbidities, hence the chronic illnesses,
It
etc.
accumulates it. Yeah, it's accumulation.
That's exactly what happens. Because I went down to 2 calorie windows on average today. Like, I'm still in the fasted state, but I had the exact same bowel movements. This is what I tell individuals. The reason why the obesity epidemic, the reason why the chronic illnesses epidemic, the reason why the Alzheimer's dementia, which is truly called type 3 diabetes when you jump over the inside of the fence, is all because your body can't process the consumptions, the addictiveness, the overconsumptions. And what happens, it stores it. And then also the processed, ultra processed, refined product, there's a lot of those chemicals and ingredients. Your body can't even not only process it, it can't even get rid of it. So it attaches itself to cells and fat cells, etc.
Microplastics, all sorts of stuff. It's
stays
brutal.
inside your body.
It's, well, they're engineering to. You swear they're working to kill us off. You know, in some ways.
No, they
I'm
don't
not
want
a
you dead. They
conspiracy
want you.
theorist.
They want you dying longer.
They want you hooked up on. They want you dying longer. And you know,
dying
getting
longer.
back
They
to
want
that.
you. Think of it as a business. Right? The overconsumption is a business. The profitable people is a business. So if I can have you as a barcode to be on medication for 30 years, woohoo, right? So the $1 trillion industry individuals don't want you to live like me. They don't want you fit and healthy and try to get rid of medication. And I'm not against medication. I'm going to make this clear. I'm not against medication. I'm not against modern science. In fact, I emphasize to my clients, go get your MRIs, go get your CT scans, go get your blood work, go get your urine work, go get your feces work. I emphasize that because we want that data to work with, to look at the causations, right? Medication is a tool, not a lifestyle. It's a tool.
That's right.
It's
a short term. It's a short term patch to help fix a long term problem.
And the reason why people are on more medication is because the medication doesn't have effects no more. So instead of stopping it, they keep layering it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's profitability.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I went into the apartment of a guy I know who passed, who was 65, and we thought he was healthy, a thin guy, walked everywhere. But I looked on his counter, and there was like 14 different medications he was on. And I looked at the poor guy cleaning up the place, one of his best friends, and I said that had to have contributed massively into doing him in. And he looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, 100%." And that's the thing.
When you sit with professionals like pharmacists, like those that are on the other side of the fence, and they look at people's the 14 medications you're talking about, the average is 10 to 15. Like I've worked with individuals who are on 63 medications a day. I've worked with children that are on 5 medications a day. And when you look at that, when you look at pharmacists, professionals, and they look at the medication, the cocktails of medication, they will tell you these 2 medications, these 3 medications should not be combined.
Because it creates this toxicity in the liver alone. Like it's brutal on the whole body. So like
also, Rob, they'll look at the medication and they look at the timeline. This person's been on this medication for 10 years. The honeymoon effect was gone a long time ago. There's no effect on the body. You should not even be on that medication any longer. And this is what they keep people on medication. And again, I don't want to get into the system, right? It's a whole business in itself. But
it is. We can spend we'll do another podcast on that for sure. But looking at fasting, I've done 12 hours. I'm now getting near 16 hours of not eating. What happens to the body after that? I know I wipe out bad cholesterol. Cholesterol plummets. It resets insulin levels, so it actually really fixes that problem.
It reduces inflammation, Rob.
It reduces inflammation. What about cells and regenerating? What about regenerating cell tissue?
So if you look at just basic fasting, like your 16 days, for example, your 20 hours of fasting, whether you're 12 hours of fasting, you're allowing your body to clean. Right? You're allowing inflammation to go down.
Self-cleaning oven.
Correct. Self-cleaning oven. After a 3-day fast, for example, and this is data and science. I don't want to repeat myself, but that resets the immune system, right? A 7-day fast, Boston College, the Dr. Thomas Seyfried, a lot of data and research out there. A 7-day non-calorie fast reduces your chance of ever getting cancer. And you only got to do it once in your life, but it reduces your chance of ever getting cancer by 70%. After that, look at 5-day increments. You start rejuvenating and renovating the skeletal system, the nervous system, your brains, your eyes. Everything starts regenerating. After 30 days, your pineal gland, and that's why I went to a real spiritual world. But it allows the body to clean. It allows the body to restore. It allows the body to renovate. So and I tell people, like say it's 16-8, and this is all, and it's not new, This is thousands of years of information.
I know it's been talking about in various societies.
It gets
talked about in various societies. Yeah. Religious texts, culturally, every corner of the earth talks about fasting. The Incas wrote about fasting. I mean, the Egyptians talk about fasting. Ancients, Romans talked about fasting.
But what was the commonality, Rob?
All religious holidays had
But what was
fasting.
the commonality? And this is what I tell people right now. Ramadan's going on, right? I tell people, if you look at the Christian, if you look at the Catholic, if you look at all the religions, they all have fasting. But what is the commonality? The commonality is cleansing. The commonality is inner health. That's why they do it. It's for the cleansing and the inner health. That's the commonality of fasting. All religions, all old books, that's why they do it. They do it for the wisdom. They do it for the cleansing. They do it for the spirituality. And I'm telling you, the wisdom, it makes you smarter. It makes you ignore the noise. It makes you ignore the marketing. And it makes you value your life. I'm no longer addicted to consumption. I'm addicted to life. I'm addicted to a long, vibrant life.
That's awesome. We're going to close up on that. What a great talk today. We're going to get you back at some point soon.
Thank you, Rob. Likewise.
We'll definitely get in touch with him on Dimensional Wellness 365. Program's brilliant. Jean-Guy's currently working with a lot of business people in particular are approaching you. And I can see why. You're getting fat and out of shape and you're feeling brittle at 50, or you're skinny fat and you feel even worse. You're over 50, the muscle's degenerating, your health's degenerating, you're consuming horrible foods. This is the West. You're on a cocktail of pills. Your mental fog is there, but you're also supposed to be in the prime of your career still. So
how about enjoying your life, Rob?
And enjoying your happy times. Yes. How about enjoying the time you have in all facets? That is a brilliant point. That is an awesome point.
If I could add a last thing, Rob, to this, and I tell individuals that I sit with, why did you work so hard? You don't want to be sick. You want to enjoy your retirement years. You want to fulfill your grandfather, grandmother duties, right? So this is why they approach me, because they've put in their 40 years and their 30 years of business. And I tell those that are younger than me, you're smarter than me. You're starting younger. You don't want to get sick. So those that are investing in themselves, they want to live 90 years strong. They want to live 80 years strong. They don't want to be sick and dying longer in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's why they're coming to me.
True. Much love, brother. Ladies and gentlemen,
love.
I hope you've enjoyed this talk. Share it, watch it, subscribe. Whatever you decide to do, this is Jean-Guy and Rob representing Stream Water from the Drunken Grape and from Dimensional Wellness 365. Much love. Have a terrific day.